Some cases stay with me for years, and this was one of them. I've seen anger in court before, I've seen fear, shame, and regret. But that day I saw something colder. I saw a man with money look down on a man with dignity. And when that happens in a courtroom, it isn't just about law anymore. Comment and tell me what you think. It becomes about character. It becomes about the kind of world we are building for our children. Because if success teaches you to mock the weak, then it has taught you nothing worth knowing. That morning I felt the weight of the bench before I even sat down. The hallway outside was busy. Lawyers were shuffling papers. Officers were speaking softly. People were waiting for mercy or justice or both. And I remember saying a quiet prayer under my breath, asking for patience. My father, God rest his soul, used to tell me, character is how you treat people who can't help you. If that means something to you, please subscribe. Those words came back to me before this case even started. I didn't know yet how much I would need them. I only knew that something in the air felt heavy. Let me take you back to that courtroom. Comment below if you've ever seen pride ruin good sense. The room was full but still, not silent. Still, you know the difference, the kind of stillness where people are listening with their whole body. The clerk called the case and in walked the defendant. He was the chief executive of a local company. Nice suit, expensive watch, shoes polished like mirrors. Wait till you hear what he said next, but first subscribe. He carried himself like the court was wasting his time. He didn't walk in with worry. He walked in with annoyance. If this moves you, please subscribe. He didn't look at the flag. He didn't look at the seal. He didn't even look at the people around him. He glanced once at me, then at his phone, then at the ceiling. The charge sounded simple enough at first. Comment and tell me if I was too harsh. Disorderly conduct, harassment, interfering with a city employee, but cases are not grocery lists. Behind every charge there's a story. And this story began in the loading area of his own office building. The janitor in this case was named Mr. Alvarez, 63 years old, thin shoulders, work boots worn down at the heel. He had been cleaning that building for almost 19 years. He was not there to argue with anyone. He was there to do his job. According to the report, the CEO arrived early for a board meeting. If you care about respect, please subscribe. A supply cart was near the service elevator. The hallway was narrow. Mr. Alvarez asked him very politely to wait a moment while he moved it. That should have been the end of it. Instead, the defendant snapped, "Do you know who I am? Comment and tell me what you would have done." Then he said, "People like you are invisible until you're in my way." When Mr. Alvarez tried to explain, the defendant knocked a mop bucket aside and said, "Clean faster, that's what you're paid for." Now, I've sat on the bench a long time. I've seen thousands of cases. I know that reports can be incomplete. I know tempers flare. I know people say foolish things when embarrassed. Wait till you hear the rest, but first subscribe. So I didn't judge him right away, but then I looked at Mr. Alvarez. If this matters to you, please subscribe. His hands were folded tight. His eyes stayed low, not from guilt, but from humility. He looked like a man who had spent a lifetime swallowing pride to feed a family. I know that look. I grew up with that look. Here in Providence, I have known people who worked 2 jobs and still went without. Comment below if you know someone like that. My father sold fruit from a cart. He worked hard. He came home tired. My mother stretched every dollar like it was made of gold. So when I see a working man treated like dirt, it gets to me. Thank you for being here. Please share this. Not because I hate success, I admire honest success, but because nobody earns the right to humiliate another human being. Money can buy comfort. It can't buy decency. The prosecutor read statements from 2 witnesses. If this touches your heart, please subscribe. One was a receptionist. The other was a delivery driver. Both said the defendant laughed after Mr. Alvarez bent down to clean the spilled water. One witness heard him say, "That's perfect. Get on your knees where you belong." When those words were read aloud, the whole courtroom changed. Comment and tell me honestly what you felt. You could feel the air leave the room. Even the lawyers looked down. It was one of those moments when shame belongs to one person but everyone feels it. I watched the defendant during that testimony. "Thank you for being here. Please share this," he smirked. Not a nervous smile, not confusion, a smirk. Then he rolled his eyes and leaned back. "Wait till you hear what happened next, but first subscribe." He whispered something to his attorney and chuckled. "That bothered me more than I can tell you. If respect still matters, please subscribe. A courtroom is not a theater. People come there carrying pain. Some come with broken homes, some come with debts, some come with fear, and this man was treating it like a private joke. Then he interrupted his own lawyer. Comment if you think that was his biggest mistake. He said, "Judge, this is absurd. We're talking about a janitor, not a surgeon." I remember the exact feeling in my chest. It was heat, real heat. My hands almost shook. I looked at him and said, "Sir, in this courtroom, nobody is just anything. Thank you for being here. Please share this." He shrugged. He actually shrugged. Then he said, "Fine, then call him facilities management if that makes everyone feel better." A few people gasped. I have seen arrogance before. If this means something to you, please subscribe. But arrogance is fear in a fancy suit. That's what I have learned. It hides weakness behind polish. It mistakes status for worth. And when it gets challenged, it often turns cruel. The bailiff later told me the defendant had been rude outside too. Comment and tell me if courtesy matters. He ignored directions. He snapped at the clerk. He kept checking his phone while others were speaking. At one point, he said loud enough for staff to hear, "I bill more in an hour than this room earns in a week." That kind of sentence does not come from strength. Thank you for being here. Please share this. It comes from emptiness. It comes from a life where applause replaced reflection. Wait till you hear this, but first subscribe. And the terrible thing is, some people around him had probably laughed for years instead of correcting him. Still, part of me wanted to show mercy. If you believe mercy matters, please subscribe. That may surprise you after what I've told you, but that is the struggle of judging. We don't sit there to punish our enemies. We sit there to do justice, even when our feelings get in the way. I thought about his family. Comment if you've ever wrestled with a hard decision. I thought about whether he had children watching his name in the news. I thought about whether one terrible morning should define his whole life. A sentence can correct, but it can also harden. That night before I ruled, I couldn't sleep. Thank you for being here. Please share this. I walked from one room to another. I poured a glass of water and left it untouched. I prayed for guidance. Wait till you hear how personal this became, but first subscribe. I asked God to keep anger out of my judgment. My father's voice echoed in my mind. If family values matter to you, please subscribe. He used to say, "A strong man never needs to make someone small." I heard that sentence over and over. Then I heard another one. "Frank, fairness is not softness, fairness is courage." And then I thought of my wife. Comment and tell me if your spouse keeps you grounded. She has always had a clear eye for people. She sees through performance. She sees the heart. Sometimes when I carry a case home in my spirit, she knows before I speak. I told her, "Part of me wants to teach this man a lesson. Thank you for being here. Please share this." She said, "Then make sure it's a lesson, not revenge." Those words stopped me cold. Wait till you hear why that mattered, but first subscribe, because she was right. The bench is not a place for revenge. 2 days earlier, I had a woman named Maria before me. If this story moves you, please subscribe. She was charged with driving on a suspended registration and unpaid tickets. Nothing dramatic, no headlines, just trouble stacked on top of trouble. But the difference between Maria and this defendant was as wide as the sea. Maria came in wearing a supermarket uniform. Comment if you've ever met someone trying their best. Her hands were trembling. She worked nights. She cared for her mother. Her son had asthma. She had missed payments because she chose medicine first. When I asked her why she was behind, she didn't blame anyone. "Thank you for being here. Please share this." She said, "Judge, I'm ashamed. I'm trying. That was it. No speech, no excuses wrapped in pride." Wait till you hear what I did, but first subscribe. Just truth. I looked at her record. If compassion matters, please subscribe. I saw effort. I saw someone drowning, but still kicking toward shore. I reduced what I could. I gave her time. I told her to keep faith and keep moving. She cried, "Comment and tell me if kindness can change a life." Not because she escaped all consequences. She didn't. She cried because someone saw her struggle without mocking it. That's the thing people forget. Respect itself can be a form of mercy. So when I thought about the CEO, I thought about Maria too. Thank you for being here. Please share this. One had very little and still showed grace. The other had every advantage and still chose contempt. Wait till you hear this, but first subscribe. That contrast sat heavy on my shoulders. Why was this case different? If this speaks to you, please subscribe. Because the harm was not only in the spilled bucket or the rude words, the harm was in what those words declared. They declared that dignity belongs only to the successful. I could not accept that. I would never accept that. The truth is, I had another reason this case hit me hard. Comment if you believe our past never really leaves us. When I was a boy, I spent time around men who cleaned floors, unloaded crates, and swept sidewalks before sunrise. Some of them were friends of my father. One of those men, Mr. DeLuca, used to let me stand beside him while he worked. Thank you for being here. Please share this. He would pat my shoulder and say, any job done honestly is a noble job. I never forgot it. Wait till you hear the connection, but first subscribe. Years later, I learned something that stunned even me. Mr. Alvarez, the janitor in this case, had once worked with my late uncle on a city crew. If this means something to you, please subscribe. Not close friends, but they knew each other. My uncle had spoken of him as a decent man, a reliable man, a man who never complained. That secret connection shook me. I did not announce it right away. Comment and tell me if you think I should have. I sat there and took a breath. I wanted to make sure my heart was steady. Personal memory can deepen understanding, but it must never poison fairness. I told myself, be careful. Thank you for being here. Please share this. The law must not bend because a name feels familiar. Yet the connection reminded me of something important. Wait till you hear this, but first subscribe. The people we dismiss are never as invisible as we think. The next morning, when court resumed, the room felt even quieter. If you're still with me, please subscribe. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. I could hear papers turning. I could hear one nervous cough from the back row. Sometimes silence tells you more than testimony. I looked at the defendant, and I looked at Mr. Alvarez. Comment if eye contact matters in moments like this. One stared past me. The other looked frightened to be noticed. And I knew then that my duty was not to protect comfort. My duty was to defend dignity. I said, sir, I want you to listen carefully. Thank you for being here. Please share this. In my years on the bench, I have heard many apologies. I have also heard many excuses. What I have not heard from you is respect. Wait till you hear the ruling, but first subscribe. He shifted in his chair. Then I told the court about my uncle's old work crew. If this touches you, please subscribe. I said that the janitor standing there was not an object, not an obstacle, and not less important because his paycheck was smaller. I said a community survives only when ordinary people are treated as fully human. Then I looked him in the eye and said, here is my ruling. Comment and tell me if you agree with this. You will pay the maximum fine allowed on the disorderly conduct count. You will also pay restitution for damaged property and lost work hours. I continued. But money alone won't fix what happened. Thank you for being here. Please share this. So I am ordering 40 hours of community service, not at a charity gala, not in a boardroom, but in a city maintenance program. Wait till you hear his reaction, but first subscribe. The room went dead still. I said, you will report in work clothes. You will clean public spaces. You will do it under supervision. And you will complete a workplace respect course before this matter is closed. If you believe consequences teach, please subscribe. Finally, you will deliver a written apology to Mr. Alvarez and the court staff you disrespected. His face changed all at once. Comment if you can picture that moment. The confidence drained first, then came disbelief, then anger. He leaned forward and said, this is outrageous. Do you know what my time is worth? And I answered very calmly, today, sir, your time is worth the same as everyone else's. Thank you for being here. Please share this. I kept my voice low, firm, clear. You are not being punished for success. You are being held responsible for cruelty. Wait till you hear what happened next, but first subscribe. He started to protest again, but I raised my hand. If this speaks to you, please subscribe. No, sir, you have spoken enough. The lesson you missed in privilege, you may yet learn in service. I remember the courtroom silence after that. You could feel it in your bones. Mr. Alvarez did not smile. Comment if that detail matters to you. That struck me deeply. A lesser man might have enjoyed revenge. He didn't. He just looked relieved. There is a kind of dignity that stays quiet even when justice arrives. After court ended, people filed out slowly. Thank you for being here. Please share this. A clerk touched my arm and said, Judge, thank you. The bailiff nodded once. Mr. Alvarez turned back before leaving and placed his hand over his heart. Wait till you hear how I felt later, but first subscribe. I nodded back, but when I walked to my car that evening, I felt no triumph. If honesty matters, please subscribe. I felt tired, heavy. I replayed every word. I asked myself whether I had gone too far. A judge who never doubts himself is a dangerous judge. I sat behind the wheel for a long minute before starting the engine. Comment and tell me if hard choices stay with you too. I thought about mercy again. I thought about the children who might hear about their father's behavior. Justice touches more lives than the case file shows. That night, I told my wife everything. Thank you for being here. Please share this. She listened the way she always does, without rushing, without interrupting. Then she said, Did you act from anger or from truth? Wait till you hear my answer, but first subscribe. That question went straight to my soul. I said I was angry, but I think I was truthful too. If this means something to you, please subscribe. She nodded and said, Then let the anger pass and keep the truth. There is wisdom in simple words. I have learned that again and again. A few months later, I got an update. Comment if you believe people can change. The defendant had completed the service, not happily at first from what I heard, but he completed it. He also finished the respect course and submitted the apology. Was the apology perfect? Thank you for being here. Please share this. No, it felt polished in places, but one line stood out. He wrote, I confused authority with value and I was wrong. Wait till you hear why that mattered, but first subscribe. Sometimes change begins with one honest sentence. And Mr. Alvarez, if this touches your heart, please subscribe. He kept working, same steady way, same humble manner. But the staff later said he stood a little taller, not because a judge rescued him, because truth had finally been spoken out loud. Would I decide the same way today? Comment and tell me what you think. Yes, I would. Not because I wanted to make an example of one man, not because it was easy, but because it was right. In my years on the bench, I have learned that law without humanity becomes cold. Thank you for being here. Please share this. But humanity without accountability becomes weakness. The hard part is holding both in your hands at once. Wait till the end, but first subscribe. That is the burden of judgment. Everyone deserves respect and everyone owes it. If you believe that, please subscribe. The waitress, the mechanic, the janitor, the judge, the CEO. Titles may change. Salaries may change. Human worth does not. So let me leave you with this. Comment and tell me if this lesson belongs in every home. Money can open doors. Fame can fill rooms. Power can make people obey, but only character makes people trust you when the room goes quiet. My father, God rest his soul, also said this, the measure of a life is not what you gather, but what you give back. Thank you for being here. Please share this. I have found that to be true in court and out of it. Wait till this last thought, but first subscribe. We are all remembered by the way we treat the vulnerable. If you are struggling today, do not let someone's arrogance define your worth. If this touches you, please subscribe. If you have been blessed with success, wear it gently, carry it humbly, because the higher you rise, the more carefully you should bend toward others. And if you ever wonder what justice should sound like, maybe it sounds like this. Comment if you agree. Calm, but not weak. Merciful, but not blind. Firm, but never cruel. Justice should leave room for change, but never make excuses for contempt. I still think about that courtroom sometimes. Thank you for being here. Please share this. The ticking clock, the stunned faces, the silence before the ruling, the look in Mr. Alvarez's eyes. Wait till this final line, but first, subscribe. Some moments remind us who we are supposed to be, so be kind to the people the world overlooks. If this means something to you, please subscribe. Stand up for the one who gets talked down to. Teach your children that dignity is not for sale, and never forget, arrogance may look strong, but respect is stronger. Thank you for walking through this case with me. Comment and tell me, was I too harsh? I hope you'll carry the lesson, not the anger. Good luck to you, and God bless.